The other is sin, just doing things because it's available and you want to do it, and your lesser self tells you, go for it. That's not a reason to do it. So being self-centered in childhood is normal. But there's no action, you're not in puberty yet. But being self-centered in adolescence and adulthood is not acceptable. The same act means different things because the context changes. So, when we do things for the right reasons, we can make the act of intimacy a beautiful, God-blessed event. A gift from God to take two people who are individuals, who then recognize in each other the beloved, who then make a commitment before God to create the future together in God-approved ways. And they come together in a unique relationship that they don't share with anyone else. A sacred relationship sealed with love and with intimacy. And out of it comes the most blessed of all gifts, the beautiful child. This is what the story is really about. But the first version, there's two versions of it. The first version, they mess up and they're caught in the act. And they're caught and they find themselves naked, ashamed for what they've done. They become aware that this was not what they should be doing.
So the bad choice was eating of the apple, impatiently knowing, in other words, having sex, and seeing the woman as an object of lustful desire. Quote, "And she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother, Abel. Cain builds cities and begins the first technologies, such as metal and tools. Then the good choice, patiently knowing his wife as partner in God's purpose for a spiritual humanity. Eve conceives and Seth is born."
See, there are two versions. The first one is where they basically mess up and they bear two children, Cain and Abel. You know the story. There's jealousy occurs and Cain kills Abel. I'd like to suggest, and also by the way, the name Cain in the original Hebrew means metalsmith, one who uses metal. Cain represents the people who first built the first cities and had the first technologies. It's the birth of what we'd call modern civilization. But Abel represents his younger brother, who is still innocently in the Garden of Eden. He's still in childhood. He's not responsible for behaving the same way Cain is. Cain is jealous because he doesn't know why his brother is getting away with doing things that God won't accept from him. That's the real story of what happened, is that Cain represents doing things he shouldn't be doing, but he sees his younger brother getting away with it. Why? His younger brother is operating as a child. He's self-centered, but it's okay. He's an angel. But when Cain operates out of self-centeredness, God is displeased. And that's the real difference between the two. Cain, modern civilization, has been killing Abel, indigenous peoples of the earth, the innocent, childlike state of indigenous behavior. He's been killing him for thousands of years. We ourselves in the modern world are Cain when we come across the innocent person who doesn't know any better, is doing what comes natural, and we persecute them, take advantage of them, pillage them, and hence the pillaging of Abel has been going on for these 6,000 years. When the Europeans came to America, the Native Americans were Abel. The Europeans were Cain. We used our technology to dominate them, stomp on them, and harm them. When we went to Africa, we used our technology to dominate them, enslave them, and use them for our own purposes. That story of Cain and Abel has been going on and is still going on because there are still people who are innocently unaware. And those who are aware have a responsibility. As Cain said, am I my brother's keeper? The answer, yes. You who have been given much are responsible to assist those who have not yet become aware. I want you to see this now in spiritual terms. You have been given a great gift. There are those out here who have not yet received the gift. How you behave towards them with arrogance and domination, try to make them look bad or wrong, I suggest that's not the way. Enrich the poor, Baha'u'llah says. Enlighten the learned, and then guide the true seeker to his Lord. We have a responsibility to behave responsibly with whoever we're around. Read now the good choice. The second story is where Cain and Abel are where God once again goes through a simplified version of the creation story and says, and so God created man, male and female, created him, he, them, and he called their name Adam. And they, once again, Adam knows his wife, and she conceives a son. Let's go on.
So the good choice is patiently knowing his wife as partner in God's purpose for a spiritual humanity. Eve conceives and Seth is born, and the people call upon the name of the Lord. And Adam begat a son in his own likeness, and after his image, and called his name Seth.
Remember, Adam is a prophet. So this Seth is the Abdul Baha of that revelation. Cain is the son who goes astray, but builds modern civilization. So when we get done, there's two people, there's actually three, but the ones that are on the scene are the sons of God, the children of God who are obeying God and doing God's covenant, and the worldly ones who are building technologies and building cities, etc. Two groups of people on the earth after Adam. And just as Christians take their name from Christ, Christ came and the people who followed him are called Christians. You might call Adam came as a prophet and the people were called the Adamites. Mm-hmm. So the true people of God are the Adamites in this particular little version. Now let's talk about war in heaven.
So related to the topic of war in heaven, Lucifer, in perfect innocence of self-centered childhood, must give way to adolescent free will, awakening to the choice between the greater and the lesser, to submit self-centeredness to the greater calling of mature and positive choices of spiritual purpose. Failure to do so produces the insistent satanic self that plagues us throughout our adult life, causing us to rebel against God and his purpose. Self-centeredness is now the satanic impulse cast out of the heaven of God's acceptability.
So many people have wondered, how could Lucifer, who being perfect, could then start sinning and get thrown out of heaven? That was the ancient story. It's because he's cast out of childhood. And he has to bow down before the responsibility of adolescence. He refuses, in a sense. There are those who refuse to take responsibility for their actions, who refuse to let the spiritual calling dominate their self-centeredness and put it in its proper place. It's not like this part of the brain is to be rejected. It is to be dominated by the higher calling of, you might say, mind and heart and spirit. Only when it starts to run the show are we in danger. And how many people out here that the reptilian part of their brain is running the show? They far more operate from what that desires are than what they know better and the way to act. So this explains the story of Lucifer being cast out of heaven. He's cast out of childhood, and what was accepted as a child, made him a beautiful angel, is not accepted when he becomes a responsible person. Why don't you take the two Adams?
So we have Adam with a capital A, who is a messenger from God, breathing the breath of life into mankind, who is represented by Adam with a small a, who is the emerging adolescent mankind, awakened by the Spirit.